Hi, IndyCar fans, it's Martha, and I want to welcome you to episode 25 of Cruising 41. Let's talk about Portland. And, well, there we go again. Another win, a dominant win, as a matter of fact, for Alex Palou. His sixth win in 2026. And, when it comes to championship, I think this championship is all about wrapped up by now. But what a dominant display, flawless execution, not only by him, but also by the team, who we all are accustomed at, seeing Chip Ganassi Racing delivering a great, great race, not only from a strategy standpoint, but also the execution. And of course, Alex Palou doing Alex Palou things. If we talk quali for a second, Felix Rosenqvist was on pole position, his second pole position in 2026. Ira McLaren had a very difficult weekend, and Christian Lundgaard started last. He was having some hybrid issues and trying to reset the hybrid. And anyway, so he ended up starting last. The one thing that I want to highlight also is this was a weekend where Honda was totally dominant. You had in the Fast Six, you only had one Chevy engine, and that was Rinus VeeKay. The next Chevy to qualify was David Malukas. He qualified ninth. And then from that point on, you had the rest of the Chevys mostly, 14th and even lower on the grid. So total domination by Honda, and it actually carried over to the race as well, because the podium was an all Honda podium as well. The race, I got to be honest, and I got to give you my opinion. I didn't think that was a really great racing product, to be honest. Portland does have some significant limitations, and that mostly translates in the ability for cars to really being able to pass the other cars. So that, I think, has always had an impact with how the race unfolds and what kind of competition we see there. And I think it is also an issue that it gets amplified when you see a race like Portland, because the other venues do produce such exciting racing. And so a little bit disappointing to see just kind of like not a lot happening. We only had one caution during the race, and there wasn't really an opportunity to spice things up. And but anyway, so obviously too, there is the strategic component that it's attached to every single race, and of course it wasn't any different here in Portland. However, there was some noise in the system relative to which tire would be the preferred tire, and because some of the Fast Six had to use most of their alternate tire, the red compound tire, they were potentially going to have an impact, not having many sets of alternate tires to be able to carry on the race, especially so if the red tire was the preferred tire. We saw the start. Felix Rosenqvist was able to maintain the lead. It was a clean start, despite the fact that we have that famous turn one, that curve that even, during qualifying and during the practices too, caused a lot of trouble for some of the drivers, including, Scott Dixon, who had his quali lap impacted by touching the wall or touching that turn, the barrier over there on turn one. So on lap 4, Ericsson was able to get past Alex Palou, and he was looking super competitive, and he was looking that he actually had a huge competitive edge over Alex Palou. And that was what it was looking like at the beginning, and it was kind of like, okay, yes, we're going to have a spicy race potentially ahead of us. It didn't capitalize on that expectation, and maybe it was just my expectation. But then the normal cycle of pits started, and Pato, for instance, he pitted on lap 22, and he got out of the he got into the alternate tire and left the primary compound, which he started with, behind. We had at this stage of the race Felix Rosenqvist, Marcus Ericsson, and Alex Palou keeping quite close. I think the reason we were seeing kind of like Palou behind the two of them, and this is just speculation on my part, but I've been thinking about that, and I think that's probably what happened, is Palou was really not only saving the tires and the fuel, but for the ultimate purpose of creating the possibility of an overcut over Felix Rosenqvist. Because like I said, this track is not particularly easy to pass cars. So I think that was probably the thought, like, okay, I'll save now at the beginning, at the early stages. I won't get as racy. And then so I can make the overcut work, which as a matter of fact, it did work. So he was finally able to go into the pits on lap 32. And it was a few laps after everybody else had already pitted. And so he went from the primary to the alternate tire. And the piece that is also amazing with Alex Palou is how he can make both tires work. He can be super competitive on either of those tires, and we saw it perfectly executed this weekend. So he was on the soft tire and he made it work. He put time between him and those behind. He was on the primary tire and he made that work too. And he has that ability to make either tire work and last and get, extract the best out of that tire. Then lap 34, there was an issue with Marcus Armstrong's engine. And it is like so sad to see because he is been having these engine failures. And I'm sure it's not the exact same engine failure, but regardless, it's engine failure time and time again. And he has been on a super competitive, very good performance in a lot of races, and at the end his result gets compromised with these issues. It's very disappointing and absolutely devastating to see for him, who is such a good racer, and he has not had the opportunity to capitalize on his talent and give a really good race because of those issues. And it is also very interesting to see that, he is struggling so much with the engine, because on the other side of the equation with Myers-Shank Racing, you have Felix Rosenqvist, that it's been able not only to put, his car on pole, but also he's been having really competitive races and wins in 2026, obviously most notably the Indianapolis 500. And then, by lap 40, Palou was comfortably in the lead, and he already had at this point in the race, he had already a gap of 5 seconds ahead of Felix Rosenqvist, and then that's pretty much it. He never lost the lead, and he continued to build that gap to the point that by lap 49, he was 7 seconds ahead of Felix Rosenqvist. Pato pit again, lap 50, and then this time he changed into a set of red alternate tires. Despite the troubles that Aaron McLaren had this weekend with the race, with the car, with the setup, with the overall package. My sense is that Pato doesn't necessarily enjoy very much the alternate tire. He is he's stronger on the primary compound, and but he has to go into alternate tires at some point of time, so he did, and it seemed like he struggled more so than it was on the primary tires. So then at the end, it was a win for Alex Palou. Like I said, his sixth win of the 2026 season. Felix Rosenqvist second, and Will Power third. Again, it's all Honda podium. Very dominating weekend for Honda, and also very nice weekend for Andretti Global overall. And one word, just quick word about Will Power, because it is great to see him again on in the podium, and he has always been very racy and very competitive at this track. And he had back-to-back wins both in 2024 and 2025, so this is a track that really suits his style, and he likes. And now with the new team with Andretti and Honda, he was able to capitalize and get a podium. Very big shout out to Rinus VeeKay. He had a very competitive weekend. Great performance through the practice sessions to quali, and then to the race. He finished fourth, and he was the only Chevy, like I mentioned, not only the only Chevy on the Fast Six, but he also was the only Chevy on the top five at the end of the race. So a great, fantastic, great performance weekend. For Rinus VeeKay and the Juncos Hollinger Racing team. So when it comes to championship, it's Palou on top, of course, 110 points in the lead. It is just, like I said, I think this championship is pretty much wrapped up, and we'll see. There is a tight competition between David Malukas and Kyle Kirkwood still, so we'll see how that second place shakes out. And I mean, it's not impossible for either one of them to get to Palou. It is not impossible. It's mathematically possible still, but the way Alex Palou is performing week in and week out, then I do not think that there is just really a reasonable chance for anyone to get close to him or even to fight for that championship. I am really in awe of how flawlessly, perfectly executed race it was by Alex Palou. Maybe that's part of the reason what the race felt a little boring, because like I said, in my mind, it feels like he very deliberately did what he did to make the overcut work, with saving the tires and saving the fuel, and the team and him did it perfectly. And so kudos to the team, kudos to him, and it's actually now kind of like the standard for him, right? And for the team, they always do perform flawlessly. So I already mentioned a little bit about the struggles from Aaron McLaren, and of course Pato was in the middle of those struggles as well. It was the balance, it was the performance, it was the setup, it was the overall package did not work for them. And it's a little puzzling because they have done well in Portland in the past. So it just, something is really not clicking. And so hopefully this is just a one-off where we see this situation happening, and they can shake it off, and then they can come back to the next race in Canada with a stronger package and with performance and with speed and not as many problems as they were having. Yeah, I talked also a little bit about how Lundgaard had his issues with the hybrid system, and while he had a really good recovery from starting last to finishing ninth, it was still far from ideal. I think most of the positions that he gained were at the start, very much at the start, when he was able to pass a lot of cars just at the beginning. And then with the limitations from the track to being able to really pass cars and be able to do overtakes, It was just not possible to get any higher. I don't know. I already mentioned a little bit. I thought the racing was not as exciting as we are accustomed to at this track. This track also, it looked like there weren't that many fans at the track either. So I know IndyCar has constantly been looking at the calendar and trying to assess, what other venues they can add, what other venues need to be, revisited or reviewed. And it's great that this year we had totally new races being added to the calendar. So I would just suggest that Portland probably is one race that they may need to take a look at it closer, just to make sure that it's still aligned with the narrative that IndyCar wants to put forward for an exciting product and the fastest racing on earth, as they advertise it. When the series right now is at a pivotal moment, it is really, really in moments like this that you have to make those decisions to continue to create meaningful impact and to be able to not only get your product more exposed to the fan base or to new fans, but also to amplify the impact overall. Just another one item I wanted to touch base on, and it is like huge, exciting news for the series, is the launch and introduction of the IR28. And it is just, it looks great. It looks great. It looks racy. It looks bold. I think if this car or this new generation of car is delivering on all the elements that are being baked into the car, it will be yet another significant catalyst to build upon to get even more fans into the sport. Just to highlight some of those big changes and significant changes that it's from the current model of the car is it has a redesigned chassis. It really looks flawless. It looks high-tech. It looks fast. It's a much lighter hybrid. So you know that when you're taking weight out of the car, then you get significant speed, or potentially significant speed. There is a new suspension system and an aero package that has been revised and upgraded. There's a new cockpit that it's way more flexible and safer. They had the car tested by Alexander Rossi and by Alex Palou, and their feedback was great. They had nothing but great things to say about the new car, which is, great to hear. It will get tested on an oval. It hasn't been tested yet, but this was the first test on that new chassis, that new car, and it looks great. If you haven't checked out the videos that were put out there by IndyCar, and also the one that was narrated by James Hinchcliffe, then take a look, because it is just an amazing looking car. We have now entered the kind of like the last part of the season, and we're getting very close to the end. But next, we're going to go to Canada, to the streets of Markham. This is a 2.19 mile circuit. It has 12 turns. It is a totally new circuit. First time for IndyCar there. And it's going to be totally new for everyone. So that sort of levels out the pecking order. And hopefully we will get to see a new pole sitter and also maybe a new winner. And I mean, we'll see. I just hope that it is just a really outstanding, amazing race. Now, one thing to consider, and it's when we talk street circuits, our biggest performer on street circuits is Kyle Kirkwood. So we'll see if he can capitalize on this circuit as well. And, he's, like I mentioned, he is second on the championship, very close to David Malukas. They have been interchanging or alternating that second position in the championship. But you can never discount Kyle Kirkwood because he is very good on street circuits. But also, like I mentioned, there's the variable of a totally new circuit for everyone. So I am expecting a very exciting, amazing competitive race. I really hope so. So thank you for listening. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel, interact with me on my socials. I want to know what you think about this Portland race and how would you rate the race, but also how would you rate that overall product as part of the IndyCar narrative and proposal. And also let me know what do you think about the championship. Is Palou already have this wrapped up, or do you think there's still a chance for David or Kyle? And anything else that you want to interact with me on, I'll put my socials here. And I'll talk to you next weekend, actually next week, when we debrief the Streets of Markham.